Grease lived in the air that night, a heavy warmth clinging to cupboards and vents. The humans had returned in a chorus of paper foil and cheerful scraping, then vanished upstairs with clinking glasses and laughter that drifted like distant thunder. What they left behind on the stove was a red-brown mountain, striped with ketchup glaze, meatloaf. Beside it, a bowl of potatoes sat like a snowdrift, melting butter pooling in gold. Pip smelled it before the floorboards could whisper it down. "Hungry," he breathed, paws pressed to the den's edge, as if prayer might haul the dinner in by itself. Arlo checked the crack in the baseboard. The kitchen wore a different face tonight. No safe counter roots, no forgotten plate on the table. The prize glowed on the stovetop, high ground wrapped in danger. 4 black burners waited like trapdoors. A low burner still shimmered with leftover heat, and the cats had learned. Brutus guarded the counter corridor, prowling between cutting board and bread box, a wall of muscle and impatience. Velora sprawled on the checkered rug below, not lazy for once, eyes tracking the edges of the stove with the cold grace of a portrait come to life. Silas had chosen the fridge, a statue perched in shadows, tail tucked neatly, head tilted with the attention of a scholar. He wasn't watching the meat. He was watching for a mouse. "Stay here," Arlo said quietly. Pip nodded, but the nod trembled. "Be careful." Arlo slipped into the open. The climb began with cloth. A dish towel hung from the oven handle like a rope dropped by a merciful god. He leapt, caught, and began the hand-over-hand pull, the towel rocking with his weight. Above him, the meatloaf steamed. Beyond, the cats breathed the way a room breathes before a storm. At the handle, he paused. Metal held heat. He tasted it with the pads of his paws, flinched back, then swung to the oven door seam and shimmed himself upward, a nail's width at a time. The stovetop rim rose to meet him, slick with a film of oil that turned each grip into negotiation. Brutus caught the movement first. "He's here!" he snarled, claws scoring the counter. Velora's whiskers flared. "How original!" Silas said nothing. He leaned forward an inch, watching. Arlo slid onto the stovetop. The near burner was off, but warm enough to prickle. He darted over it, a breath from searing, and reached the meatloaf pan. The glaze shone like lacquer, the loaf squared and tidy at the edges, as if the humans had sculpted it with a ruler. He bit. The meat broke beneath his teeth. Not clean, not like steak or cheese, but crumbling as if it had waited its whole life to become crumbs. A wedge the size of his head gave way, and with it came a betrayal. The rest of the slice slumped, avalanching down the pan's slope. Chunks skittered across the stovetop, tapping metal, bouncing into the slick channel between burners. One piece fell, smacking the tile with a wet thud right in front of Velora. She forgot about elegance. "Mine!" she hissed, snatching the meat and flinging it into her mouth, sauce painting her lips a theatrical red. Brutus sprang for the oven. Door, massive paws slamming the handle. The towel jerked. The world pitched. Arlo flattened to the stovetop as the pan rattled like a cymbal. Silas still waited. Arlo pulled another bite, smaller, learning the loaf's treachery, and heaved it. Onto his back. Mashed potatoes were a hazard, a glue field. But he scooped a dab anyway to soften the scrap and keep it from shedding. Every gram was gravity. Brutus swiped at the stovetop rim, claws fishing. Arlo used the pan as cover and sprinted for the back corner, where the stove's lip dipped toward the counter. The oil skim made it a slide. He fought for purchase, hind paws ping-ponging, the meat a warm weight that begged to be dropped. Silas moved. He fell from the fridge without sound, a descending line of shadow and precision. He didn't lunge like Brutus. He didn't flare like Velora. He cut the angle, paw extended for the one path Arlo had left. Arlo swerved. The meatloaf shifted, threatened to slip. If he saved the food, he'd be caught. If he saved himself, Pip would go hungry. He chose treachery. Arlo wrenched the scrap free and hurled it forward. It struck the stovetop, burst into a spray of crumbles, and pattered into the gap behind the range, a rain of scent the cats couldn't reach. Silas's eyes flicked toward the falling bits for half a heartbeat, calculation adjusting, and in that heartbeat, Arlo launched the potatoes. He scooped a fist of mash and flung it. It hit Silas's paw with a soft slap, spread, and slicked his pads. For the first time in days, the strategist lost grace. His landing skidded, claws scraped for purchase. He hissed, low and unembarrassed, because this wasn't pain. It was offense. Arlo ran. He careened across the counter, dropped to the chair back, ricocheted off the rung, took a deliberate slide along the dish towel, and hit the tile in a controlled fall that still knocked the breath from him. Velora lunged, but caught only potato on her claws. Brutus thundered after him, table legs rattling. Silas recovered soft as a breathed threat. The baseboard crack was a door, a river mouth, an answered prayer. Arlo threw himself through it and collapsed into the cool dark, chest lanterning up and down, ears ringing with feline fury. Pip was there. He had dragged their fabric bedding close to the opening as if proximity might help. "You did it!" he squeaked, and then faltered when Arlo set down the only prize he hadn't sacrificed, a meager wedge no bigger than a thumb. A survivor of the avalanche. Pip didn't pounce. He looked at the scrap, then at Arlo, then back at the food. He divided it clumsily with his tiny teeth and paws, made a crumb from a crumb, and nudged the smaller half toward Arlo. "For you," he said softly. The words were not hunger. They were ceremony. Arlo's throat tightened. He thought of the crumbles he had thrown to oblivion, of the way Silas's eyes computed futures, of Brutus's towel slam and Velora's momentary surrender to appetite. He thought of the towel rope and of Pip's paws pressed white to the baseboard, faith with no guarantee. "I can't," Arlo said. Pip pushed it closer. "Please." Arlo looked away. He could name this ache 1,000 things: discipline, duty, war. But the truth was simpler and more violent. Love refused him. It refused him every night. "Eat," he said, and his voice was gentler than orders deserved. Pip did, though he glanced between bites like he was learning a grief. On the other side of the wall, Brutus snarled at empty tile. Velora groomed mashed potato from her paw with bitter dignity. Silas did not move. He stared at the crack, patient as a winter branch, and tapped one clean paw once, twice, as if marking a metronome only he could hear. Pip finished and curled against Arlo's side, warm as a small furnace. "You're the strongest," he murmured, already falling into sleep. Arlo did not answer. In the quiet after battle, pride settled on him like a cloak he hadn't earned and didn't know how to wear, and he let it rest there anyway. He kept watch, listening for pause, for laughter above, for tomorrow assembling itself in the dark, because tomorrow would come, because purpose had a stomach, because a mouse had a son, whether he could say it yet or not.